Hi, and welcome back to Fire Talks. My name is Chris Brunette. I'm Chief of Fire and Life Safety Section here with the Colorado Division of Fire Prevention and Control. And joining me again today is Chuck Altvater, who is the branch chief for our Community Risk Reduction and Education branch. Now, some of you who have listened before, you've heard Chuck in the past. And he brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to our team. But for those of you who haven't listened to other podcasts, I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself and let you get to know him before we dive into our topic today, which is the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation and his work with them. So before we get into that, Chuck, do you mind just introducing yourself and telling our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, good morning, Chris, and good morning to everyone listening. Like Chris said, my name is Chuck Altvater. I am the branch chief for our Community Risk Reduction and Education branch here within the Fire and Life Safety section. I've been with DFPC for about 11 years, and prior to that, I was a firefighter in Savannah, Georgia, following a 21-year career in the Army. I got my start in the fire service as a volunteer firefighter, and I've been working in the fire service since I retired from the Army in 2010, full time. So that's my background.
Yeah, no, and I'm so glad not only that you're part of our team, but you're willing to join me here on this podcast and talk a little bit about your important work that you do with the NFFF, the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. So, of course, Chuck is a full-time employee and a chief with us here at the Division of Fire Prevention and Control in Colorado. But as part of that, especially with his role as the branch chief for community risk reduction, he volunteers and works with the NFFF, particularly where it comes to protecting our firefighters. That's as much a part of community risk reduction as anything else. And so we're so glad that he does that and we support him doing that. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit today. Chuck, can you start out by just giving us a little bit of history of the NFFF and who they are and what they do?
Yeah, Chris. I got started because 2 years ago, I saw an email from the NFFF advertising their fellows program, which is a leadership development program that they run. They're currently getting ready to host their sixth cohort. The fifth cohort will be inducted in February at the CFSI conference in Washington, D.C. I'm a member of the fourth cohort, and they've been doing this for a while. As I got started in the NFFF, I learned a lot about the history of the foundation and its roots, and I'll just tell you a little bit about that as we get ready to talk a little bit more. So it started with the memorial, not the foundation. And the memorial was established at the National Fire Academy campus in 1981. And I think a lot of people who've been to the NFA know that much of it. And the reason it was established at the NFA was once the campus opened in 1979 and students from all over the United States started attending classes there, it became sort of the natural place to have a memorial for our fallen firefighters. Prior to 1981, there was no single memorial in the United States for fallen firefighters. And so the memorial was established in 1981. And anyone who's ever been there knows it's a stone obelisk topped with a Maltese cross and an eternal flame. And today, when you go there, you'll see two walls, low walls surrounding it with bronze plaques. And those bronze plaques contain the names of fallen firefighters from each year since 1981. But the original monument was just that stone monument with the Maltese cross and eternal flame. And over the last 45 years, that memorial has expanded. In 1992, Congress passed a law making it the official national memorial for fallen firefighters in the United States. And with that legislation, they also chartered the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. They were charged with maintaining the monument, honoring fallen firefighters, and supporting the families of fallen firefighters. Over the last 4.5 decades, that memorial's expanded, and today when you go to the NFA, you'll see the Walk of Honor, which is the bricks closest to the monument actually commemorate fallen firefighters who passed away prior to 1981. And then there's other bricks that people can donate and purchase a brick to support the upkeep of the memorial. It's also expanded to encompass that entire center quad of the campus. If you're familiar with campus, at the southern end is a 9/11 memorial and a Bell of Honor, and the foundation maintains and takes care of all of that. They also provide family programs, everything from Memorial Weekend, where they induct fallen firefighters into the memorial, to Christmas tree lightings at the holidays, and wellness conferences for family members, as well as scholarships for the spouses and children, stepchildren of fallen firefighters. It's a pretty big mission, just with those two elements. But the third part of that mission, and where I'm involved in, is in fire service programs, and that's a role that the foundation took on through the intervening decades, and it's charged with preventing future line of duty deaths and serious injuries to firefighters. And so the foundation, in order to meet that mission, has taken on the role of training firefighters to help prevent those line of duty deaths.
Wow. No, thank you for sharing all that, Chuck. I've been out to the National Fire Academy a number of times, and of course visited the memorial and get to see the walk and the Walk of Honor and the Memorial Park and the Bell of Remembrance, all of that. But I never really had the background, especially that in depth. So I really appreciate you sharing that with me. So you talked a little bit about that. You talked about the threefold mission. But I guess tell us a little bit more about your role with the NFFF and what you're doing.
Yeah. My role as an advocate is to represent the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation within the state of Colorado. And I have to say, I have the additional duty as an advocate of being the state lead advocate. So I also help coordinate the other advocates within the state as we represent the foundation. We present training. I spoke a moment ago about the training we do to help prevent line of duty deaths. And so I help coordinate them. I help promote the foundation to the fire service and to the public. And yeah, I think that's really the role I have there as the advocate. So.
Yeah, wow. And so, I know we'll talk a little bit more about the 12 life safety initiatives here just in a bit. And of course, there's some other things that I know that you advocate for, in particular, the firefighter seatbelt pledge and so forth.
Yeah.
Maybe you'd like to talk a little bit about that before I jump into how it relates to your role with DFPC.
Yeah. So really, in addition to the training we offer, like I said, advocates teach in-person training. There's also online training that the foundation offers for folks. But in addition to that, they have a couple of programs that have been very successful over the years. I think the one that most people are familiar with is Everyone Goes Home. And that's basically a pledge that says at the end of every call or every shift, we want firefighters to go home to their families. We've recently updated that, and we've added the word until everyone goes home, because the foundation recognizes that firefighting is an inherently dangerous business, and not everybody goes home every time. And so our goal really is aspirational. We really do want everyone to go home, but we're going to keep working at it until we get to that point. One of the ways we do that is with another program, and a lot of people may have heard this in past years. I haven't seen it as prominent lately, but it's the firefighter seatbelt pledge. And I think we don't see it as prominently anymore because it worked. It worked really well. We don't roll apparatus unless everybody on that apparatus is buckled up. And we do that because vehicle crashes, vehicle rollovers are the #1 cause of line of duty deaths among firefighters. And that might sound a little surprising, but we also know that going to and from the scene is really the most dangerous thing we do as firefighters. So one of the ways we can prevent those preventable deaths is by ensuring everyone is buckled up before that apparatus rolls. And like I said, the firefighter seatbelt pledge has been very successful over the years, and we're super happy with how that's turned out. However, we still need to be vigilant, because as the next generation comes on board as firefighters, they need to be taught and inculcated into a culture where we buckle up every time. So that program continues. And so those are a couple of the programs that the foundation does in addition to its training mission.
Yeah. Well, and I think, if you don't mind, I'm going to share just a personal point on this. When I joined the fire service nearly 25 years ago, I'm a little ashamed to admit that we were not very diligent with our seatbelts. In fact, it wasn't uncommon for us to get a call and actually bunk up in the back of the fire engine on our way to the call. We felt like it was an effort to shave off some time, but through the NFF's program, and in particular through the firefighter seatbelt pledge, we did change the culture. We recognized that there are better ways to shave off time in our response, and probably, well, not long into my career, we were able to change that culture, and made sure that we were ready to go and were able to sit down and buckle up once we did get on the road, which, to your point, that's where we lose probably more firefighters than anywhere, is just driving to and from these calls. And it's, if it's something that you can forecast, it's avoidable. And so the NFFF recognized that, and they worked hard to change that. And truly, in my own career, they changed the culture, and I appreciate that. So, and I appreciate you and your work that you're doing here. It's very important. And I do believe, as I said, as we got into our discussion, that this ties in well with your job and what you do for the state of Colorado. But maybe let's get your perspective on that. Tell us a little bit about how this does tie in with your job as the branch chief for community risk reduction and education.
Yeah, Chris, I think it ties in very well with DFPC's mission, which is to protect lives and property, resources, and the environment here in Colorado. But even more so, I think it really ties in with DFPC's mission to provide bold leadership and enhance partnerships among the fire service agencies, so that we can really exemplify professionalism across the state. We talked a little bit about the NFF's threefold mission, to honor the fallen fire heroes, to support their families, but to work to reduce those preventable fire deaths and injuries. And I think the two just mesh really well together in that way.
Yeah, and I really like what you said about that especially here at the Colorado Division of Fire Prevention and Control, we try and provide that bold leadership throughout the state to all of our jurisdictions. And so I just truly believe and support the importance of what you're doing with the NFFF, and I'm so glad that you're carrying it out to all of our jurisdictions and local departments here in Colorado. So thank you for that. One thing,
that, Chris.
Yeah, no, of course. I appreciate you.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, I really think my role within DFPC helps us with providing this message across the state, because I can talk to all the jurisdictions across the state, and there's a lot of interest in being more active in the NFFF, and the life safety initiatives and the other programs that we have. So
yeah, for sure. And I know some of that is through the 12 life safety initiatives that the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation has. Now, it wasn't always the 12 life safety initiatives. I know that that's just been worked on, and I know you were part of that work. Maybe you can tell us not only about that work and how that's grown over time, but maybe highlight the 12 life safety initiatives for us.
Yeah, so for many years, and a lot of people are going to be familiar with the 16 life safety initiatives, and those, they're about 20 years old. And they've done a lot of great things for the fire service in helping prevent LODDs. But in 2024 at the Advocate Summit, there was a large conversation about the initiatives and did they need to be updated. And the advocates came to the conclusion that they did need to be updated. And they went from the 16 to the 12. And they did this in part because they wanted to be able to allow fire departments to use them more effectively within their agencies. And one of the ways they can do that is by having one life safety initiative per month that they can focus on. Now the 12 are now organized, rather than being a list, they're organized into a matrix. So there's 4 columns and 3 rows. And the 4 columns really divide how we look at the initiatives and how they can be applied within the fire service. So the first one is survival culture and leadership, where we really want to focus on creating a culture of safety, creating a culture of aggressive firefighting that's not reckless. And we want to provide the leadership within the fire service so that even new firefighters become a part of that culture quickly. The second column is health and wellness. It's not just about fireground actions. It's also about what we do before and after and off duty that keeps us healthy and well so that we can enjoy a long career and an even longer retirement. The third column is training and competency. In order for you to fight fire aggressively, you need to have 4 things. You need to be physically fit. You need to be well-trained. You need to use current best practices, and you need to employ technology. And in order to do that, you have to be trained and you have to be competent with both your body and how you use it and the equipment you have and how you use it. And the fourth column is government and community. How can we conduct community outreach programs as part of our CRR program, but also how can we connect with our government leaders, our elected officials, and how can we make them more aware and sympathetic to our needs for the things we need to make our firefighters safe. That includes funding, that includes equipment, and that includes training opportunities. So those are the 4 columns that really hold up the 12 life safety initiatives. And then within that, I said there were 3 rows. And these focus on the 3 levels where we can apply these life safety initiatives. The first is firefighter well-being. The second row is practices and standards. And the third row is organizational capacity. So really, this is a all-encompassing way of applying the same ideas and concepts from the 16 life safety initiatives. We've just broken them out in a way so we can apply them more efficiently.
Wow. No, thank you for that background. Thanks for going through those with us, Chuck. I think it's important to keep the 12 life safety initiatives in mind and at the forefront, especially as we continue to work through this difficult fire season, not only in Colorado, but throughout the United States. I guess on that note, the NFFF, they work not only to prevent firefighter deaths, but when one occurs, the NFFF is there to support. And so I guess I'd just like you to talk a little bit about how the NFFF supports our fire service when we do unfortunately have a line of duty death or otherwise.
Yeah, the NFFF supports fire departments when there is unfortunately a line of duty death. And we actually start before there's line of duty death, and we do that through training. We offer a 1-hour online module called Taking Care of Our Own, and that provides fire chiefs and their command staffs with the very basic information they need to start preparing their agency for the event that there is a line of duty death. However, I would recommend leadership take the in-person Taking Care of Our Own class. It takes a full day, and it's the only class that the foundation teaches that is not taught by advocates. The Taking Care of Our Own class is taught by members of the LAST team. And LAST stands for Local Assistance State Teams. They are a group of dedicated volunteers who, when they're activated, will immediately step in and assist the fire department through the process of an LODD. They don't take over, but they are there to assist, and they're really a force multiplier in making sure the outcome of this tragedy is the best possible outcome. They can help set up a separate incident command system for the line of duty death. They can help with the logistics of processions and dignified transfer of remains in all those ceremonies that have to take place. They can offer a lot of the material support that a fire department probably doesn't have on hand. Everything from bunting to flags to boxes of white gloves and casket stands designed for the fire service. Like I said, they're a specially trained group of volunteers, and they are peer supporters. So one member of every last team is a surviving family member of a line of duty death of a firefighter. One member is a fire chief or incident commander who went through a line of duty death. And then there's other personnel that work with them. But we want to make sure that the department that suffers the line of duty death has folks who've walked this path before and have learned the lessons over hundreds of line of duty deaths, so that your fire department doesn't have to make the same mistakes, and they can honor the fallen, take care of their family. And what a lot of people don't stop to think about is they really need to take care of their own agency as well. And there's a lot of moving parts to do that. And so there's 10 immediate priorities when a line of duty death happens. And the first is that leadership team has to confirm the facts. They need to make sure they've got all the information, they've got it correct before they move on and do anything else. And that has to happen very quickly. The second priority, and these are not in order, they are equally important, and they're going to happen all at the same time, but some of them may last for years, some may be over very quickly. So the first I said was confirm the facts, what happened, when it happened, who was involved. Care for the family. You want to make sure that they're not finding out their loved one perished from the news media or from social media. So we want to care for them. We want to make sure we're taking care of their needs in their time of loss, and that we're there to assist them in any way they need. We want to account for the crew that was involved with the LODD, and we want to make sure they're taken care of. That may be that some of them are transported, some of them are still fit for duty, but they need to be pulled off the line. They need to be cared for as well, because they're going to be going through a lot of mental anguish. We need to preserve that incident scene, because the second there's an LODD, we know that there's probably going to be 3 levels of investigation that occur for that line of duty death, and we want to make sure all that evidence is preserved. We want to activate our department's LODD plan, and every department should have one. We want to make sure the contact info is up to date and current. Insurance info is up to date and current. Who are we going to contact? How are we going to contact them? There's a lot of important information that should be in that plan, and it's not something you want to start creating on the fly. It's something you want to have in place that you can pull off the shelf or pull up on your computer and start using the same way you would any other plan within your fire department. You want to make those notifications, and you want to make them the right way. Nothing can harm your relationship with that family and their ability to get past the grief that they're going to suffer worse than an improper notification. So we want to make them properly, and you'll learn how in our taking care of our own class. You want to deal with the public information. The media is going to want to know what happened, who it happened to, why it happened, as soon as they find out about it. So you want to get ahead of the curve on that and make sure that you are managing the public information, that the public information isn't managing you. You want to maintain department operations. And here's where I think there's a big difference in many different fire departments. Some fire departments, when there's an LODD, most of the department continues to operate as normal. Other fire departments all but shut down. And it's because of the size and how many people are involved and who knew who prior to the incident. So in order to maintain operations, sometimes you have to activate your mutual aid partners. There's been instances, even in large fire departments, where neighboring departments have covered the entire district while they're dealing with this tragedy. So you want to maintain those department operations. You want to begin the benefits and admin support. There's an incredible amount of paperwork that goes into making sure the family of the fallen firefighter receives the benefits that they're due. And if you mess it up at the beginning, it takes a lot of work to overcome that, and could take a long time. And we want to make sure they get those benefits as soon as possible so that they can go on with their lives. And the last of those 10 immediate priorities, and by certainly not the least, is to honor the fallen. We want to make sure that we do dignified transfer of remains the right way. We want to make sure we do processions the right way. We plan the funeral or memorial service so that it has meaning for everybody and allows the family to grieve and say goodbye. And really in all of what we do, when there's an LODD, we want to make sure that family of the fallen is taken care of. So yeah, that's how the NFFF supports LODDs in the immediate sense, where they send that last team to help the fire department get through those 10 priorities and start making a plan for how they're going to recover from the unfortunate event.
Oh, thank you for that, Chuck. And thank you for the work that you do with the NFFF. For those of you joining us, this is the Fire Talks with Colorado Division of Fire Prevention and Control. I've been talking with Chuck Altvater, our Community Risk Reduction and Education Branch Chief today. He's been telling us about the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation and his work with them there. I think I want to close it out there because Chuck talked about honoring the fallen. And unfortunately, this year in Colorado, we've had 5 fallen brothers and sisters that I want to remember here and dedicate this one to. At the end of June, we had a burnover in Mesa County where we lost Emily Barker, Nick Hutcherson, and Sydney Watson on June 27th, 2026. And then later, about a month later, Nathan Matthews succumbed to his injuries that occurred there, and he died on July 24th, 2026. We also lost Nicholas Dale, the heavy lift helicopter pilot, in the Ouray County aviation incident on July 12th, 2026. These are all accidents that we want to bear in mind, and we want to pray for these lost ones and their families, and we want to honor these fallen. And so for that, I'm going to close out just with a moment of silence. And I appreciate you all listening. And until everybody comes home, take care of yourselves.